Hi, and welcome to this short yoga practice that we're going to do together today. It is going to be a practice for cardiovascular health, heart health, healthy blood pressure. So we are going to be up and moving a little bit. We are going to have the opportunity to elevate our heart rate just a little bit. But just know that you don't have to go run a marathon or do super high intensity workouts in order to get the benefits of exercise for heart health. So sometimes just elevating our heart rate just a little bit with some low impact type of exercises like yoga, like a slow flow kind of yoga, can be incredibly beneficial for our heart health. We're also going to do some inversions in the practice. They'll all be very, very accessible, so we're not going to be standing on our heads or anything crazy like that. But just know that if you do have high blood pressure that isn't under control with medication or diet or however you have your blood pressure under control, that you should be careful with inversions because they can elevate your heart rate more or your blood pressure more, and can be counterindicated for people with uncontrolled high blood pressure. If your blood pressure is under control, though, then the inversions can actually be really beneficial in helping you to lower your blood pressure even further. So just practice with care, practice with listening to your body, and just doing what feels right to you. And there'll be lots of variations and things to help make the practice accessible for anyone. So we're going to start in seated. I have just a couple props today, my 2 blocks, a small pillow, and my chair or a wall. So just make sure you have some sort of combination of those handy. We're just going to start in seated. So you might decide to sit up on a prop, and I'm just sitting on a block right now. And then you can maybe have your knees elevated a little bit, or maybe your feet together, or cross-legged, or you can even have your legs out in front. So just picking a spot for you that feels just right for your legs and hips, and a spot where you can get your spine nice and long. We're just going to take the first couple minutes here just to kind of settle in and ground. So maybe just noticing your seat on the mat or on your prop, on your block, whatever you're sitting on. Notice that lengthening of your spine. Maybe you just roll your shoulders for a minute or move your head and neck, just getting centered. You might tune into your breath, just start to notice your breath here. And then just taking a minute to start to notice your heartbeat. So if you'd like to bring one hand to your heart, maybe you do that. If it's easier for you to feel your pulse, maybe just bringing 2 fingers to your wrist. Or if it's easier for you to just tune in and feel or sense your heartbeat. Notice its rhythm. Notice how it feels right now. Maybe the rate that it's beating. And then we'll just bring both hands to our lap. We're just going to start to find some movement for our spine, warming up your spine a little bit, and maybe connecting movement and breath. So we'll just start with some seated cat-cow. So just starting to open the front of your body, lift your gaze, and then take that in the opposite direction, rounding your spine, dropping your gaze towards your belly. You can just move back and forth between those two. So just opening the front of your body, maybe gently press your shoulder blades together, and then round. And if you want to link your breath with that, you might breathe in as you open and breathe out as you round. Just take about a minute here moving in this way. in and out, opening the front of the body, opening the back of your body, moving through your spine. Just a couple more in each direction. And then we'll go straight into a little side stretch. So we're just gonna start to lift through the side of your body, maybe bringing your arm overhead, opposite hand can go down to the mat. You could also keep your fingertips at your shoulder, and then back to center and the other direction. And then back to center. And you can move back and forth between those two spaces. Again, maybe linking your movement and breath. So maybe you're inhaling, come to center, exhaling as you take a spine stretch, inhaling back to center, and exhaling. Again, just moving back and forth between those two spaces. You can let your head drop towards your ear as you do this so that you're moving all the way down the length of your spine, including your neck. Maybe just taking one more on each side. And back to center. And then from here, we're going to do a little twist to each side. So just starting to twist or turn toward one side, you might look over your shoulder and then back to center, and then taking it to the other side. So you might bring your opposite hand across, same side hand behind, maybe look back over your shoulder, and then back to center. And again, we can just kind of move through those, between those two sides. Maybe adding breath in, inhaling center, exhaling twist, inhaling center, exhaling twist. Just gently warming up, breathing in and out as you move. You could also have your hands at heart center to do this, just in prayer, gently moving side to side. And it feels right through your shoulders, arms, and just taking one more on each side, twisting, back to center, opposite direction, and back to knees. And you might just find a little bit of stillness now. Notice your heart rate, your heartbeat. If you want to take a minute to check it, or just to tune in for a few breaths. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and come into a tabletop. So we'll just shift around and bring your knees under your hips, hands under your shoulders. I like mine on blocks. You can just have yours on the mat, whatever works better for you. The same thing here. We're going to just start to move through our spines a little bit, finding some cat-cows. Again, maybe you drop your belly, lift your gaze, tilting your pelvis down, and then rounding through your spine, gazing back toward your legs. Just take about maybe 4 or 5 rounds of that. Again, you can add in moving with your breath if you like. And from here, coming back to neutral. And then we're going to come up to a standing forward fold. So this will be our first inversion, is a standing forward fold. So you can move into that simply by maybe lifting your blocks up to a higher setting, stepping one foot up and then the other to move into your forward fold. Or if you prefer, you might move through a downward dog, which is the version, curling your toes under, lifting your hips and pressing your upper body back toward your legs. So either option, if you move into that downward dog, you might take just a couple of breaths there. And then stepping your hands and feet together. Your knees can be as bent as you like in both your downward dog and your forward fold. Okay, so just notice, again, if you're feeling like you want to not be so far into an inversion that your head is below your heart, you can always come to a neutral spot. Still get the benefit of stretching those hamstrings, or you could round all the way forward. Either way, we're moving at that hip joint, finding a forward fold for a couple of breaths. And then we're just going to start to come up to standing. So I just like to use my hands and walk all the way up to standing. All right, find your mountain. So we're going to move through a few kind of variations on Sun Salutation A, using our chair or wall, or using your mat and blocks. So your option, I'm just going to put my blocks down on the mat so you can. So from here, we're going to just start to find, again, a little breath to movement. So maybe you just start by bringing your arms overhead, and then bringing your hands through heart center. Bringing your arms overhead, bringing your hands through heart center. A few times. Kitty has decided to be in the picture with me, so all right, we'll see how this goes. Bringing arms overhead, breathing in, hands through heart center. Maybe one more time. Arms overhead and through heart center. And then from here, we're going to go arms overhead. This time, we're going to sink down into a little chair. So we're going to bring our knees forward, hips back, spine is nice and neutral. And then start to, I'm going to just move forward toward my chair a little bit. Start to find that forward fold again. So you might bring your hands down to your blocks. And then take a breath there. And I'm going to come up and move into a chair downward dog. So I'm just going to bring my hands to my chair. Step my feet back. And you can bring your head as far down as you like, stretch through your shoulders. Just be mindful that your shoulders are feeling comfortable here. If you prefer to do this on the wall, I'm going to just come back up and demonstrate that. You can come to the wall and just walk your feet back there for a wall downward dog. And the other option is to come down to your blocks or all the way to the mat and step your feet up for the downward dog there. These are 3 options for your downward dog. And then we'll just step our feet back up toward our hands in whatever version you were in. And then come all the way back up, maybe bringing your arms overhead and hands to heart center. So we're going to take a few rounds of that. So decide which version that you want to use, the chair, the mat, maybe the mat with blocks or the wall. And then we will, as we go through it, you can just take whichever of those variations you want. So I'm just going to do the chair the first time, the wall the second time, and the floor the third time. So we'll just go arms overhead, sink down into your mini chair, hips back, knees forward. Take a breath in, hold forward, the hands down to your blocks. Another breath there, and then coming up to your chair or just stepping straight back to your downward dog and stepping your feet back. Finding your downward dog, your version of the downward dog for a few breaths. And then we're going to step our feet back up toward our hands, come all the way up, and then hands through heart center and back down to, do that 2 more times. So in this one, I'm going to go arms overhead, sinking into my chair.
folding forward. And then you could just place your hands on your blocks, step back. I'm going to come back up to my wall this time and step my feet back from my wall downward dog. Then stepping your feet back up. Going back to your mountain. Maybe bringing your arms overhead and through heart center. And then the last one, I'm going to go all the way against my blocks, but again, you don't have to. You can use the chair, the wall, and then go arms overhead. Sink into the chair. Take a breath in. Fold forward. Hands this time, I'm going to stay down here. Take another breath. And then step my feet back to downward dog. And then stepping hands and feet back together. Whatever version you're in, kind all the way back up, bringing your hands overhead and back down. Awesome. So you should have your heart rate up just a little bit from that movement. Again, low impact, but maybe you just take a minute to pause in your mountain and notice how your heart feels. Notice your heartbeat. Okay, we're going to do one more set after you've checked your heart rate a little bit, kind of tuned in. We'll do one more thing in standing before we come back down to the mat. So for this one, we won't need, we might need blocks for one part of it. So I'm going to have some blocks there handy just in case. I always like to have them ready just in case. And then we're just going to start to find that little chair again. Just a little baby one this time. I'm not going to go very far down. I'm going to shift my weight to one foot and slide one foot back. Just so I can find a little lunge here. You can have your heel lifted or down. Either option. And then from there, you might just bring your arms overhead. And then through heart center, maybe bringing them down to your hips. You're going to start to open those hips out away from the front leg. Okay. So just a little bit. Heel can come down in the back. Then bringing your arms out maybe. Take a breath there. And then we can bring our back hand down by our leg. Front hand, palm can face up and find a side stretch. Arm comes overhead. And then back to center. And then we'll take that in the other direction so that front hand can come down maybe to your knee. And you might reach that back hand up overhead. Couple breaths. And then back up to center. And then we're just going to turn our hips back to face the front. You might have to scoot your back foot in just a little bit. Straighten the front knee a little bit. And then come on down to find a gentle forward fold over that front leg. Maybe you fold in a little further. Maybe you stay in that neutral spine. And then we'll just step our back foot up to join our front foot. Come all the way up. Maybe bring your arms overhead and through heart center. So I'm going to do that on the other side. I'm just going to turn my blocks a different direction so that you can see on the other side. And then same thing here. You're just going to take one foot and step it back. So you might come to that little baby chair first. Step that other foot back. Maybe bring your arms overhead and hands through heart center, hands to your hips, opening your hips out toward the side just a little bit. Arms can come out. And then back hand comes down, front hand comes up for the side stretch. Take it the other direction when you're ready. Back hand comes up, front hand comes down. And then back up. Arms can come out. Then you might just bring your hands back to your hips. Turn your hips so that your both toes are facing forward. And then straightening your front leg, coming down. So we don't want it locked out, right? I still have a nice little bend to my front leg. And finding your forward fold over this front leg. breaths. Stepping that back foot up. And then we can come all the way back up to standing. And hands through heart center. So I'm going to do that one more time on each side. This time just a little bit faster to get our heart rates going, just a little bit more. So we'll go arms overhead, hands through heart center, find your little chair, shift your weight to one foot, step one foot back. Maybe your arms come overhead again. This time you might go all the way open out to the side, your arms out wide, and then lifting that front palm up, find your side stretch, back to center, back palm up for your side stretch, back arm up, back to center, bring back to the front. Maybe you bring your arms back overhead, hands through heart center, straighten the front leg, folding over that front leg. Pause there, take a breath. Stepping your back foot up, and we'll do that on the other side. Pause the foot back, and all the way up, opening out toward the side, your warrior two or your surfer. Front palm up, find your side stretch, back hand comes down by your side. Back to warrior two with your arms out. And then front hand can come down to your leg, back, arm, maybe overhead. And back to warrior two, and then turning to face the front. You can bring both arms back overhead. Folding forward over that front leg. Take a couple breaths. And then we'll step our back foot up. Maybe coming all the way up, arms overhead and hands through heart center. And back to our mountain. So again, pause in your mountain. Take a minute to notice your heart rate. You might feel a little bit higher, maybe just a smidge, maybe just a tiny bit, that's okay. Take a few deep breaths. From here, we're gonna go ahead and come back down to our mats. So you might just fold forward again, bring your hands to your blocks. You could step back into a downward dog again, or you could just step one foot back, drop one knee down, the other back, drop it down to come into your table. So either option. Downward dog for a couple breaths, or come straight to your table. From here, we'll just go ahead and bring both knees a little bit wider and sink your hips back towards your heels. So your knees can be as far apart as it feels comfortable for you. And then just lowering your upper body down toward the mat. Maybe you just rest your forehead on your hands and take a few breaths there. We're going to just start to let our heart rates slow down, start to cool down a little bit. Just take 5 slow breaths here. And then shifting back up, come back to our seat. From here, we're going to come onto our backs and do just a little bit more cool down and a couple of gentle inversions. So the first one, I'm actually going to put a pillow on the mat behind me. I'm going to do a bridge, but I'm going to use a little support right under my mid to upper back. So this just helps me to be able to access this really well. So I encourage you to try it if you like. It's just a little pillow. You could also use a folded up blanket here. And then I'm just placing that so that it lines up, the top of it kind of lines up at the top of my shoulders. And then my head is off of the pillow onto the mat. And then I'm just placing my feet on the mat. I'm going to have a block handy right next to me, and then arms down by my sides. And I'm just going to start to first take a few active rounds of this. So I'm just going to press under my feet and lift my hips straight up. Take a couple breaths there. And then lower back down. I'm going to do that one more time, lifting up. Take a couple breaths. And then lowering down. This time I'm going to lift up again, but this time I'm going to have my block handy. So I'm going to lift up, hold for a breath, and then lower my hips down onto the block. So right under my sacrum, hips right down on the block. Not up too high. Don't really want it on the low back. I'm just going to hold here for about a minute. Starting to slow my breath even more, tuning into my heart, noticing that it's slowing down now. And then you could stay right there, or if you want to take a little bit more intense version of an inversion, you can start to bring both knees in towards your chest and lift both legs straight up so that you're taking a supported imaginary legs up the wall. You could also just go ahead and bring your legs up against a wall if that's more comfortable. And again, we'll just finish out our practice here, taking this last minute to just be still, tune back into your heart. Notice how you're feeling right now. And just letting go for the next minute or so. And when you feel ready, you can stay here as long as you like, or you can start to bend both knees again, bring your feet back down to the mat, maybe lifting your hips, moving your prop. If you wanted to take a longer Shavasana, you could go ahead and recline here and take as long as you like. If you're ready to end your practice, you might just roll to one side, come back up to seated. So I hope you enjoyed the practice and I got your heart rate up just a little, and hopefully you can see from that we can do cardio health and heart health without necessarily needing to go running or to do anything super high intensity. Those activities are wonderful as well, but we can also do some lower impact exercises in yoga to benefit and support our heart health as well. So please drop me a line if you have any questions. I'm going to include my email here. You're welcome to
you're welcome to email me with any questions. Otherwise, hope you enjoy the practice.